Hi everyone. Firstly, a big thank you for joining us for the first Engaging Data Bytes Lunch and Learn session. My name is Chris. I'm part of the Engaging Data team, and I'll be hosting this session today. Engaging Data are the experts behind data automation, and we're here to discuss data testing and how it can be accelerated with data automation. Firstly, you're going to meet Carl, Engaging Data's head of consultancy services, and Carl's going to talk about some of his experiences and some of the pain points we see when testing data. And then you're going to hear from Thomas at BiG EVAL, who have a solution that helps with data test automation, validation and monitoring, as well as process integrations and DataOps. That's enough for me. I'm going to hand over to Carl and we'll go from there.
So what is testing? Well, I think we kind of all know what testing is, but do we all do it? I've been on many a project where we've basically been given a report to reconcile back to, or worse, we've created a report that we need to reconcile back to, which is not only checking our own homework, but if we've got a report that we've been given, tends to have loads of things that we didn't know about or that shouldn't have been there in the first place. And when we're doing testing, we're summarizing totals, we compare them, we create them against what we've been supplied, and we spend hours comparing spreadsheets. It's manual, it's boring. Most of the time it's fraught with errors because we can only do a sample. And majority of the time it's so time consuming because we have to do it more than once. And it's just not fair because it's all manual and it's just a waste of everybody's time. And I'm sure we've all done a release where there's been no testing. We've seen the results, it's poor work. When implemented, it gives us a whole load of bugs or defects, causing more work and causes our stakeholders to lose confidence in our data. So as a kind of a part of our gold standards, we kind of recommend what kind of level of testing that we need. And we try and put as much as we can around automating the testing, having the testing orchestrated by CI/CD pipelines, making sure that SIT and sanity tests are done and all of that. So what we're going to do is hand over to Thomas, who's going to explain how we can do some of this testing and talk about his tool and how it works and how it can help.
Welcome to everybody. I hope I can show you an interesting topic. It's all about turning ordinary data into data you can trust. First of all, I start with an information or with a number you may already know. It says every second record in your systems may have a critical error. And these errors may lead to problems, but it could be that they don't have any effect to what you are doing with your data. If you have any problems, it gets very costly. $40 million is the average spend or financial impact companies report if they have data quality issues. I think that's important to do something against that. First of all, you may have a data warehouse automation solution, and I always hear the question, why do I need testing? I have a data warehouse automation solution, I don't need testing. Have you ever seen a production plant like that one on this picture that has no quality assurance at the end? Everything is automated and works perfectly or seems to work perfectly, but there are a lot of things that may impact the product that comes out of the production plant. And these could be errors in raw materials, or maybe a tool is defective, need to be fixed before products came out in a bad quality. So if we switch over to the context of data, if you want to get the best results out of your data, you need two things. First of all, you need high quality data. So your information needs to be correct during the whole life cycle and not only during a specific point in time. The second thing is processing of your data needs to be correct and error-free. So as an example, this could be an ETL process or your data warehouse, your reporting system, or whatever else. If just one of these factors here is of bad quality, the output is garbage and you can't work with this data, you can't rely on that data at the end. And probably business makes bad decisions, or you cannot get enough revenue because a marketing campaign fails or something like this. So we have two different disciplines that need to be mastered. The first is data quality management. So that means managing the quality of information or leveraging the quality of information during the whole life cycle. And the second thing is we need data test automation. So that means if you are building all these technical systems here that process your data, like an ETL process, a data import, export, and many more things, you need to ensure that what you have built is correctly and works correctly and doesn't produce any errors at the end. So this is data testing. And if we come back to data warehouse automation solutions, we can see here the data pipeline as an example. Data automation solutions also some touch points where there could be error that influence your data at the end. So here is our data warehouse automation solution. It covers a huge part of your data pipeline, probably also including presentation. So it depends on what you are using. And we have a lot of things that are standardized and come out in a very good condition if you use these generating solutions. But there are many points where issues can happen. First of all, your source data. It's out of your control because usually you have many different sources where data can come from, and you can't control how data is handled there or how it gets produced there. And so it could be error prone or it may have an uncertain behavior. You can have manual inputs. You all know how creative your users are. They can use any kind of fields within your business application to input whatever they need to fulfill their process, what they are working on. So they will find a way to enter their data. Several different stores, and every store delivers data at the end of the day. And some stores, because of different reasons, are not able to deliver data. The data is not complete. So at the end, what you get into the data warehouse is incomplete data. If we look at the other end of the pipeline, we have a lot of things that get manually built. So for example, a report, or maybe you build an OLAP cube manually or something like this. Everywhere that you have manual tasks, there may be errors at the end. Also, there is custom logic in the data warehouse automation solution. As an example, you may use an inner join instead of an outer join, and this may lead to an error at the end. So what you need is a good testing solution to test what is done and to validate data that flows into your data pipeline, and also what comes out of your data pipeline, or what is stored within your data warehouse or analytics solution. This is what BiG EVAL does. BiG EVAL covers both of these topics we have seen before, data quality management and also data test automation. What I will show you today is mainly data test automation, and we can see how to apply this into your development scenario here. So we have here in this scenario, we have three different environments. We have the development environment, a QA environment, and our live environment at the end. Everywhere where you can see an orange square, this is BiG EVAL. So you can apply test cases or validation cases at these points. First, in the development environment, we have regression testing. So that means developers build tests like unit tests or integration tests and many more things. And all these tests can be automated. So you developers can also push on a button to play them manually if they want. At the end, they know very well what works and what doesn't work. So this is especially important, as we will see later on, if you have an agile development project with several iterations that build on each other. I will show you that on the next slides. Now you can use the same test cases in all other environments as well. Maybe you add some more. Here in the QA environment, you can use the regression testing as well. And most test cases, not all, but most, make also sense to be used within your production environment on a daily basis. As an example, if data was loaded into your data warehouse, you can execute a couple of test cases that may check whether your data is complete, whether there were any errors in transforming your data, and many things more. In between of all these environments, you have the deployment or integration processes. You can use manual processes or also automated CI/CD processes here, but what BiG EVAL provides are quality gates. Quality gates are a group of test cases you build for testing your components before they get deployed to the next environment. This is especially important here when you deploy to the live environment. So this is a very powerful way because you can interrupt your CI/CD processes if there are any issues with the components that were built. So you can embed these into your CI/CD processes. We have several interfaces to do this. You can use our REST API, or also our PowerShell module. And you may integrate this into Azure DevOps as one example, but you can also integrate it into any other kind of CI/CD system that is common on the market today. On the very top left, we have our productive data that flows into our live environment. What we can do here is we can apply data quality gates as well. That means data gets checked before it flows into a live environment, because you all know how difficult it is and how much effort it means to fix erroneous data that has accidentally come into your live environment. What you can also use BiG EVAL for is you may apply data validations right in your data sources. Probably if you have a business application that doesn't cover all your validation cases that are needed, you may apply or you may build the data validation cases and rules to check that data before it gets used in other systems. What you see here is the sprint methodology here. You all know these circles here. We have these several phases within each sprint. Usually these sprints are very short. Here we have a data warehouse automation solution that covers most of this process. And maybe a little bit more or less here in the planning and design phase, but usually the most part of the process is covered. Here in testing, there is a gap. And that's where BiG EVAL comes into. If you decide to automate the tasks you are doing within these sprints, you need to also automate testing to complete the full circle. This is especially important because of this behavior. Let's imagine you have here sprint 1 and we have a couple of test cases for everything that was built within sprint 1. In the next sprint, you need to add additional test cases here in orange. But you also need to run the test cases from the first sprint again, because you want to check whether the changes you have made in sprint 2 had any bad influence onto things you have built in sprint 1. So you need regression testing. So you need to repeat all these test cases over and over again, which with each sprint, you have more and more test cases. And if you do this manually, simply not possible to do within 1 or 2 weeks. So you need all your development or testing resources just for testing. So first of all, I show you here the test case editor. So what we need are connections to our databases or data storages. So let's assume you may have a couple of data sources for your data warehouse, and we connect to these data sources. So if these have only DB or ODBC drivers, it's possible to connect. Current systems on the market can be attached to BiG EVAL, so we can get data from there to be used within our test algorithms. Then we have flat file connectors for different sorts of flat files, and we have some native integrations for SAP or maybe Dynamics from Microsoft with the Dataverse in behind, and many more things. We have also connectors to SaaS solutions. And then metadata. Metadata is very important and a very unique thing if you work with BiG EVAL, because BiG EVAL is able to read metadata from your data landscape, or also from a data catalog solution, or also from the repository of, let's say, Warescape Red as an example. It can use this metadata to automate your test cases. So as an example, if you have built a test case to check whether a specific dimension works correctly with historization, for example, BiG EVAL is able to apply the same test case to all other dimensions with the same behavior. So at the end, if you add another dimension, BiG EVAL automatically adds a new test case. If you have built and automated your test cases, all test results go into the dashboard. BiG EVAL is able to send alerts. And then we have integrations with thousands of applications through Microsoft Power Automate or other connectors. We also have a webhook integration, so you can connect to, let's say, you want to open a ticket in Jira. So it's a very powerful way to go a step further beyond testing. If you want to trigger any business processes to fix quality issues, or maybe you want to trigger any technical processes, BiG EVAL is open to do this. Here we are on the home screen of BiG EVAL. As you see, BiG EVAL is a web-based application, so it means it runs within your environment. It's an on-premise application, but it has a web front end. It's an on-premise application because it works with actual data. And most of our customers do not want to send the data to a third-party provider. So here on the dashboard, you can see the last test results. Let us look at this graph here. The test cases are grouped within different test suites. That's how we call it. And each test suite has a graph on this dashboard. And here in this test suite, we can see that we have 7 successful test cases and 8 test cases that failed the last time it was run. And we can dive into details here. Here we can see the test results of our last test run. Let's look at this KPI comparison. What we do here is we read a KPI or a measure like the total of revenues from the ERP system and also from the data warehouse. And the test algorithm compares these single numbers against each other. And if they have a difference, the test case fails. It's just a simple test case here. In fact, these are 3 different KPIs in this test case, but let me show you the result. We have 2 different probes. The one comes from the ERP, the other one from the data warehouse. And here we had a slight difference. So we can look at this and see that the freight costs had this difference. Tax amount and sales amount had no difference, so they were okay, but freight costs failed. So that's one example of a test result. But the test result looks like this. What we do here is we read a list of all customer IDs from the ERP system and also a list of all customers' ID out of the data warehouse. We could add more data sources if you want, maybe our OLAP cubes or a tabular model or many more things here. And we see that in the data warehouse were some missing keys. So we had some missing customers here in the data warehouse, and we need to fix this. So we can see here which customer IDs that are missing. I can download an Excel file with the results, or I can also attach that Excel file automatically to an email and send it to developers, whatever is needed here. So you see, depending on the type of test case or how you build a test case, the test results look differently. It's adapted to the requirements you have to fix these issues at the end. So, but let's look at how to build these test cases. But here within the test suites, I can build up all my test suites I want to have. So we built some to show the several features of BiG EVAL. I have here this webinar test suite, and here are the test cases I'm going to show you today. All these test cases you have built can be automated. You can run it manually here, but you can also add a time plan to these test cases here, or you may run it through the API or our PowerShell module. So this is about automation. Here, the first test case, count comparison, is a very simple example. It just counts the records or the amount of records from a table in the ERP and also from the data warehouse, and then it compares these numbers. So it's the most simplest example here. Within the test case editor, you have some describing information, and on the right side in several registers, you can set up the test case. So we have different test methods here. The most test cases are built using data comparisons, or you may want to reconciliate data. You can use these comparison algorithms here. And then we have a rule. We can do performance testing or also schema testing, what means you get an information if, let's say, a data type changes or an additional column gets added to a data source. That's something you need to know, because otherwise, if you don't know it, your ETL process may break. So this is a very valuable test algorithm. But for that one here, we use exactly equal probes. And here in the probes register, we can set up our probes. So what we do here, we have 2 different probes. One comes from the ERP data source, and we use this select count star query here to query what we need. And the second probe looks similar here, just with a filter. And that's all we need to do for this simple test case. So I can run it here manually, immediately done, because it's a very simple thing here, and it was successful. I could go to the detailed results we have seen before if I need. And I go over to the next test case to show you how that works. I've showed you the business keys comparison. It looks quite similar here. We also use the exactly equal probes test method, but this time we select a list of customer IDs from the customer table, and the same from the data warehouse here. So that's all. The test algorithm automatically recognizes that now we have a list of information and it needs to reconciliate this list. If it comes to more complicated things, you can use our scripting. Scripting is a very powerful technique from BiG EVAL, and I show you this here with this dimension histocheck. What we do here is that's a check for testing whether the historization of a dimension works correctly. What we do here is that we script the behavior of our test case. So I go here to the control register, and this script was built by me as a developer. But BiG EVAL provides a lot of examples within our gallery. It's kind of marketplace where you can download a lot of examples, so you don't need to build this by yourself. You can use the examples and apply this to your own requirements. So what we do here in the first column is we select a list of all dimensions right out of our metadata repository, and then we loop through this list. So for each dimension, we run the test case at the end. But what we do here is we set a couple of parameters as an example, table name, key name, and our histo_from and histo_to column names. So because they are different or maybe different if you have different dimensions. And if the test case gets run, we have these parameters available. Here is the query to query information from the data warehouse. And what we do here is we replace the table name by our parameter. So each time the test case runs for each dimension, it gets replaced by the actual table name. And then we can also use here the key name that gets replaced. So now if I run this test case that I've built for just one dimension, it gets automatically applied to all other dimensions as well. And this information here, this metadata, could come right out of your databases, or it could come out of your, let's say, Rarescape Red repository. And at the end, you see we had 3 different instances of this test case, and we get 3 different test results. So we had here one that succeeded, one that failed, and here was an error, probably because we didn't replace here the start and end date. So here, just to show you how the result looks like, BiG EVAL detected here for the DIM employee table that the start and end date were in the wrong order. So they need to be turned around. So maybe there was an issue when loading this table. So this is very powerful to be used here with the scripting. And I have other examples here. You can also use it, let's say here, it's the same approach here. What we do here in this test case, we loop through all dimension tables and also through all attributes. And this makes us able to apply a test case that compares data between our source and the target system, so between the ERP and the data warehouse in this example. So we can check whether all data was copied correctly into the data warehouse. The business keys test method here, this algorithm, no, sorry, not business keys, business rules. It's check employee data by rules. So what we are using here is the test method rules. And that one, it's very powerful as well. What we need here is a data set. So we query here all our employees with a couple of attributes. So it looks like this, as you can imagine. We have a list of all employees with all these attributes, so like birthday, gender, and so on. We are now going to build a couple of rules that will be checked for each record within this data set. So we can set up these rules here in the rules register. So maybe we want to check whether the gender field has a value. So it's not allowed to be empty. So we reference the gender field and check whether it's empty or not. We can build other things. We can also build a huge script if we want. In this example here, we take the birth date, calculate the actual age of the employee, and then we take vacation hours and convert them to vacation days. And depending on the age of the employee, we check whether he has got the right amount of vacation days. So that's the rule that we are going to check here. BiG EVAL compiles these rules, so they run very quickly on a huge volume of data. And at the end, you will see that in detail which records do not fulfill these specific rules. So now you see the test case failed because we had some issues. I can go into the details, and what we see here are all the rules, and we see here that 2 of them failed, and I can also see which records had these issues here. Depending data protection, it's up to the developer what gets shown here and what gets saved into the test result. Yeah, just one more thing here. You can also use or do things like this. If you have address data in a CRM system, or you may want to build a marketing campaign and you want to ensure that every address is correct, you can use an external service to check address data as an example. And just to show you what we are going to do here is we query our address data, and then we send that address data to an external web service. It's a little bit harder to understand here what we are doing, but you can see here that we do a web request to this external service, and depending on what comes back, the data is correct or not. And we are even able to write back the correct data if you need this. Just one word to integration capabilities of BiG EVAL. You can use the same technique to send emails to people, but you can also, let's say, trigger a webhook if an issue comes up. So you set up here the trigger that triggers that webhook. So as an example, a specific test suite failed. So you can use that template here and set up which test suite triggers the webhook, and then you can set up the webhook here. So you get this information into your third-party systems to be used there. Let's say you want to add some information to your CRM system, or you want to build a ticket if something happens. So this is how it works within BiG EVAL. Some words to Wordscape Red integration. We have a technology alliance with Wordscape, and we built a Wordscape Red test pack that can be collected from our gallery. And there we have a couple of test cases within the test pack that work together with the Wordscape Red repository. So here are a lot of things. Maybe you want to check whether your developers added some required columns, if this is an architectural requirement, or you may check whether all objects have any descriptions from developers. We have even possibilities to check whether there are any stored procedures within your target database that were not used anymore by Wordscape. And there are a lot of things also for checking jobs and so on. So we have a very good integration into with the Wordscape repository.
The first one was from Martin. We build our own testing framework. What makes BiG EVAL better than what we have built? That's quite a good question.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. There's no general answer to this, because what you have built can be the perfect solution for your specific requirements. Usually, if it comes to extending your solution to other requirements you may have, you are in an agile project, there come new requirements, and this may lead into the problem that you need to customize your framework, that you need to add a lot of efforts from your developers or from yourself to customize that framework, and this could be very costly and could lead to problems with your scheduling. BiG EVAL works from the first day on. You can use it. We have all these examples, and you can use it within your project directly. And because we have spent a lot of development years into BiG EVAL, there are many requirements that are covered by BiG EVAL, so you can use it by a fairly well price, I would say.
Paul was just asked, does it run on premise? Does it run in the cloud? And what can it connect to absorb and run test cases again?
There are two aspects. First of all, BiG EVAL is an on-premise application. So it runs in your data center or on a virtual machine or a container within your cloud environment. So it's always under your control what BiG EVAL does and how it uses your data. Then secondly, it doesn't matter where it runs. It is able to connect to on-premise data or also to cloud data. data. So if you intend to work with a huge data volume, maybe that comes from cloud, then it should be installed within your cloud environment as well. So that makes sense. Regarding technologies, BiG EVAL is technology agnostic. Our goal was when we built BiG EVAL that BiG EVAL is able to connect to most of current technologies on the market. Every technology that has an OLEDB or ODBC driver can be connected. Then I showed you the flat files and everything there. But if there is no OLEDB or ODBC driver, there are other platforms like Apache Drill, for example, that you can use to connect to these other technologies. BiG EVAL is also able to connect to data lakes on AWS, Azure, and so on, to Parquet files that are stored within your data lake, and much more. As you know, data is different when it comes from different technologies. So maybe you have a date time field from Oracle that cannot be directly compared to one from SQL Server or to a text file. And BiG EVAL abstracts this information. So that means a date time is always a date time. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And then you get able to use this within the test cases. This also allows you to do end-to-end testing over your project.
Question from Chris. We use a complex user role concept in our data analysis solution to control data access. Can this be tested in using BiG EVAL?
Sometimes there are very complex scenarios for security, and it's very important to test it. It's not a very well situation if someone can access data that he shouldn't access. BiG EVAL is able to use this scripting technology you have seen so far to impersonate into different security contexts. So you may build a list of security or users as an example, and BiG EVAL steps through all these users and applies a couple of test cases within that security context. It depends how you build the test case. You can check whether data is accessible or not. If it fails, this could be okay. If it doesn't fail, this could also be okay, depending on what you want. So scripting and with these parameters, you can impersonate.
The next question is from Satish. Can we combine multiple column reconciliations into one test case?
First of all, the same comparison test algorithm we have seen adapts to the format of your data. So if you query with a select star from a table, it detects that it's a table, and then it applies the cell-by-cell reconciliation. Yeah, so you can do this reconciliation, and this also works through different technologies if you want. And you can also shape your data, so you may add or remove any columns that are not relevant to this comparison. And so at the end, this it's very powerful. And what we can also do, you can use a group query. So maybe select the aggregated revenue by sales territory as an example, and do the same from an OLAP cube. BiG EVAL can reconciliate these results as well, because these are just tables. Also, it's possible to reconciliate against a REST API result. This is also possible.
You mentioned the gallery, and you mentioned that you've got lots of pre-built tests. How full is that, and what kind of technologies? So what do we get out of the box day one, and what's available to us?
Currently, out of the box, you get BiG EVAL with all these test algorithms, and you get access to the gallery. In the gallery, there are a couple of packages that you need a license for. As an example, the Wordscape package needs a license, but there are a lot of, I would tell, open source packages that are free, and you can use them within your project. And everything we have in our demo environment, what you have seen so far, and you have seen there are a lot of other test suites in our demo environment. All these demos are available for free in the gallery.
I was just going to say, I think what you've demonstrated there is a massive time saver. I know in my previous lives of trying to reconcile large Excel spreadsheets with databases and how long that takes and how painful that can be. And then it's a case of then doing it again the next week when someone does an update. So I think that's fantastic what product you've got there. Thank you for demonstrating it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A massive thank you, Thomas. That was really great to see that live, and thank you, Carl, for your insights and experiences as well. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a great session, and hopefully we get a chance to see you again, because there will be some future sessions announced very soon. Take care, guys. Thank you very much.